What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is Guys That Magic. I'm your host, Dave, and today we're going to be going over the $300 upgrade for the Revenant Recon. This is one of the new Precons that just came out at Murders of Karlov Manor, our return to Ravnica. But for this $300 upgrade, we have the one, the only Hunter joining us here.
Hello, I'm here.
Yes, you are. Speaking about why you are here, though, go ahead, help us out. I see that you get your 300. Any major changes whenever it comes to the 300 to the 100? We sticking with the same face commander?
Yeah, so for the 300, we are sticking with Mirko, Obsessive Theorist. In case you don't remember, it is 1 a blue and a black for a 1/3 legendary creature vampire detective. It's got flying and vigilance, and it says whenever you surveil, put a +1/+1 counter on Mirko, Obsessive Theorist. And at the beginning of your end step, you may return target creature card with power less than Mirko's from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. In case you don't remember, if it dies with the finality counter, it's exiled instead. So basically, the strategy of the deck is the same as the first $100, and that would be Recursion. We are a reanimator deck, so trying to get some big stuff in the grave, and then also cast it. Lots of surveil in this deck too.
I am 100% here for it. So we're sticking with the same phase commander for this one. Before we dive in with some new spiciness that we've got specifically for the 300, though, we do happen to have a couple of the ads we want to talk about, or at least kind of showcase here. These are all the cards that were included in the $100 Precon. So we're posting it up on the screen. I know that you already watched that video, though. That's why you're here for the 300, the big boy version of it. In the case that you didn't already go check that one out and you are interested in playing it around the $300 power level, make sure that you go back and you check that video out. And if you are, I don't know, not very good whenever it comes to searching up things, we've got the link for that down below. So just do a quick little scroll and you can find it nice and easy. All right, so with that being said, though, Hunter, what brand new toys do we have to play with?
Yeah, so I'm going to throw in some new creatures here. This first one, I should have added it from the $100 deck. I didn't for two reasons. One, I'll be honest, I forgot about it. It's from the Clue edition. And also, it didn't have a price yet, so I couldn't technically add it because I didn't know the price. But Demir Strandcatcher is 2, a blue or black, and a blue or black for a 3/3 creature, fairy rogue. It's got flying and says whenever you attack, surveil X, where X is the number of opponents being attacked. And at the beginning of each end step, if 3 or more cards were put into your graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield this turn, draw a card. Our deck is all about surveilling. So not only is this giving us card draw, but it's doing the surveil thing that puts counters on our commander. And it could potentially bring back things that we just surveilled. So this is a fantastic card in this deck, and I wish I put it in the 100.
Yeah, I like this card quite a bit. We talked about this one kind of at length, I feel like not too long ago whenever we were going over our thoughts on the Clue edition. What other big beaters do you got?
Yeah, so some cooler reanimating spells. We're going to put in Consecrated Sphinx. 4 and 2 blue for a 4/6 creature Sphinx. It's got flying, and whenever an opponent draws a card, you may draw 2 cards. Yeah, so Consecrated Sphinx is one of the most iconic draw kind of creatures in Magic, and yeah, we're going to draw some cards to hopefully get some reanimating targets.
I love it. I love playing around with Consecrated Sphinx, although I will admit, I don't think I've played a deck with it in quite some time. I do happen to see another card that you have here, though, kind of one of the staple pieces of a reanimation deck. What is this?
Yeah, it's one of the ones that I probably should have added in the 100 as well. It's Shieldred, Whispering One. 5 and 2 black for a 6/6 legendary creature Praetor. It's got Swamp Walk, meaning it can't be blocked as long as defending player controls a swamp. And at the beginning of your upkeep, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player sacrifices a creature. So not only is this a fantastic reanimation target, because then we can just continue to reanimate everything in our graveyard, we're also forcing our opponents to sacrifice their creatures on top of it. It's really mean.
Yep, I like it. I'm here for it. It is kind of the queen of reanimation decks, so see why that's in here. Pretty easy to include. Now, obviously, your deck isn't really doing anything if your commander is not in play, and it is probably going to draw a little bit of hate. How are we going to fix that?
Yeah, so the hate is warranted because we're doing the reanimating thing and not everybody likes that. So we got to kind of stop our opponents from interrupting us. And what better way to do that than this instant? It's Fierce Guardianship. It's 2 and a blue, instant. If you control a commander, you can cast the spell without paying its mana cost. Counter target non-creature spell. So Free cards are always good. We say that in almost all of our videos, I feel like. So countering something for free is even better.
Yeah, I like this include a lot. Free counter spells, obviously, very, very good. Not the only piece of protection that I happen to see for your new includes, though.
Yeah, this next one is an equipment. It's an artifact. It's Commander's Plate. It's 1 mana. It says equipped creature gets +3/+3 and has protection from each color that's not in your commander's color identity. You can equip commander for 3 or just equipped for 5. So yes, you are correct. We are protecting our own commander potentially, giving it +3/+3 in protection from anything other than blue and black. And guess what? All of some of the best removal spells that target are in white. So those Path to Exiles, Swords to Plowshares cannot touch us as long as we have Commander's Plate on. And also, we are pumping up our commander's power if this is attached to our commander by 3, giving us a quicker way to get some reanimating going.
Double synergies. Really love it. All
Mhm.
right, so I see 2 enchantments here.
Yeah, so the enchantment side, I had to throw it in. It's Rhystic Study. It's 2 and a blue for an enchantment. It says whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may draw a card unless that player pays 1. And yeah, that's everybody knows what this card does. We didn't have a lot of card draw in the deck, probably for good reason, but we do want to draw all of the ways to get stuff into the graveyard, so all of our surveil cards. So I figured Risk Study is a really good include here. The other one I'm throwing in is Virtue of Persistence. It's actually an adventure card. The adventure part of it is called Lochthwain Scorn. It's 1 and a black for a sorcery that says target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn, and you gain 2 life. But Virtue of Persistence is 5 and 2 black for an enchantment that says at the beginning of your upkeep, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So once again, we got that -3/-3 to get around anything that might be indestructible, like a Toski or something like that. You gain the 2 life. This just sits in the old adventure land until you have enough mana to cast it. And then once this is on the field, we're just going to be reanimating not only our own graveyard, but all of our opponent's stuff. That might be good too.
Yeah, I like it. Kind of a two-pronged attack there, although 7 mana for the second half is a bit more on the expensive side. All right, the next group of cards, it looks like you fixed up the mana base by a little bit.
Yeah, I did. I didn't change too many. Just the last 3 cards we're doing for these ads. First one, Watery Grave. It's the shock land in our colors. So it's an island swamp that enters the battlefield. I can pay 2 life if I don't enter tapped. So shock it in. We're also throwing in Takanuma, Abandoned Mire. I thought this was really good. It's a legendary land. You can tap it to add a black, or you can channel it away by paying 3 and a black and discarding it to mill 3 cards, and then I can return a creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand. This ability costs 1 less to cast to activate for each legendary creature I control. So if I draw this early game, I could throw it down as a land. If I draw this late game, then I can pitch it and we can get back maybe another creature that was killed in the early game, or maybe we have a Vraska in this deck. We could bring back Vraska if Vraska died. It's a really good little utility. And the final land I am throwing in here is Cabal Coffers. It is a land. You could pay 2, tap it to add a black for each swamp you control. And you're probably thinking, why? Well, in the case that we do have a pretty expensive creature that's on accident in our hand, well, I want the mana to cast it from our hand. So Cabal Coffers fixes that. If we can go ahead and get a Shieldred from our hand onto the battlefield, it'll help a lot in doing so.
Yeah, just getting it into play, it helps out a little bit.
Just a bit.
All right, so that's going to be it for the new includes. Now, kind of interesting here, we're going to go ahead and pop up the cuts. These are going to be the cuts from the 100, but there's a little bit of a special kind of twist here. It sounds like there is a cut that you made from your includes from the previous deck.
Yeah, so as you see now, I am actually going to cut out one of my ads from my 100. It's Candlestick. In case you don't remember, Candlestick was 1 blue mana for an artifact clue equipment. It said equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has whenever this creature attacks surveil 2. You can also pay 2, sacrifice Candlestick to draw a card, and equip class of 2. Well, I looked at Candlestick and I said, you know what's kind of better than Candlestick? That's a Commander's Plate. I understand Candlestick does the surveil thing, which our deck wants to do, but at the end of the day, our commander it's going to be better with Commander's Plate than a Candlestick.
Protection is just mildly better.
It's mildly, and it gives the +3/+3 instead of +1/+1. I get it. Surveilling is going to add counters, but a 1-for-1 swap there, it's pretty easy.
All right, and we got a couple of creatures that did not make the transition over to the 300. What are these?
Yep. Added 3 new creatures, taking out 3 more creatures. First one, Amphin Mutineer. It is 3 in blue for a 3/3 creature Salamander Pirate. It says when it enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target non-salamander creature. That creature's controller creates a 4/3 blue Salamander Warrior creature token. It also has an Encore for 4 and 2 blue, which is a lot. Yeah, I'm not here to give my opponents a 4/3. Granted, I could exile their best thing, but still, at that rate, 4 mana to give them a 4/3 and exile something, it's not doing it for me.
Don't even like the Encore ability on this one, I see.
Yeah, if I was to encore it, then I'm giving everyone a 4/3. Isn't that cool?
It is cool.
Another one I'm getting rid of is Sphinx of the Second Sun. It's 6 and 2 blue for a 6/6 creature Sphinx. Got flying, and it says at the beginning of your post-combat main phase, there is an additional beginning phase after this phase. In case you don't remember, the beginning phase includes the untap, upkeep, and draw steps. So, I mean, if you were to swing your team, you're just going to untap them and draw a card. I think our card draw that we threw in here is better than Sphinx of the Second Sun. And when it comes to adding in bigger cards, we got to cut the top of other big cards. We can't just only have big cards in the deck. So Sphinx of the Second Sun is getting out of it.
All right, so we got rid of one of our big reanimation targets. It looks like maybe another one got got sent to the grave.
Yeah, so Consecrated Sphinx replaced Sphinx of the Second Sun. And Shieldred is replacing Grave Titan. It's 4 and 2 black for a 6/6 creature giant. It's got Death Touch, and it says when it enters the battlefield or attacks, create 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. At the end of the day, I'm going to go ahead and say Shieldred is way better than Grave Titan.
I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you. However, I do remember a time where Grave Titan was one of those like staple cards that was just like an all-star in EDH. Times change. This sucks.
Times do change, and believe me, it still feels like a staple because they just keep printing it.
I mean, it's no Zatalba. All right.
It's no Zatalp, it's no Atali, but Grave Titan, pretty close third.
All right. Well, we got a couple. Oh, it looks like an instant and a sorcery. What do we have here?
Yeah, a couple non-permanent spells here. Getting rid of Deep Analysis. It's 3 and a blue for a sorcery. Target player draws 2 cards. You also got a flashback of 1 and a blue, and you pay 3 life. So Deep Analysis is getting out of the deck because, yes, I understand it's a 2-time effect. You could play it once from your hand, you could play it again from the flashback, or if we surveilled it, or if it just ended up in the graveyard, you can at least cast it 1 time. But it's not doing it for me in the deck. We have other ways to draw cards in this deck, and I just felt like Deep Analysis wasn't needed anymore. The other card we're getting rid of is Afara's Dispersal. It's 2 and a blue for an instant. It says spell costs 2 less to cast if it targets an attacking creature. Return target creature to its owner's hand, surveil 2. This doesn't get rid of the creature card forever, which is a bummer. It just kind of bounces something, and it only costs 2 less if it's attacking. So you kind of have to hold on if you just want to spend that 1 blue. Otherwise, it's 3 to bounce something, and I get it. We are surveilling 2. It's what our deck wants to do. But it's just not a powerful enough card for this $300 upgrade.
Ooh, and we have an enchantment also getting removed here. I loved this enchantment whenever it was around in Standard.
Yeah, the card that's coming out is Disinformation Campaign. It's 1, a blue, and a black for an enchantment. It says when it enters the battlefield, you draw a card, and each opponent discards a card. And whenever you surveil, return Disinformation Campaign to its owner's hand. It's going to continue to cost 3 as long as we can just do surveilling. I just didn't find like it was powerful enough. It's going to use mana that I'm going to want to use later. So, goodbye.
I mean, as somebody who's going to be playing against this deck, I am all for you having an additional tax of 3 mana.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to spend 3 mana to draw a card, and you guys discard a card. I'll do it again and do it again. Nah.
All right. Well, I did spend some time upgrading the Boros one myself, and there were about 1,000,002 lands that tap for colorless mana in that deck. I can only imagine you had absolutely none of them in this deck. So what kind of lands got removed?
Yeah, so you're wrong. There are lands that tap for colorless. I don't know why they decided to do that. This kind of precons, a lot of colorless lands. Maybe they felt like this was the time to reprint all of them. The ones I am getting rid of, Drown Yard Temple. It's a land. You can tap it for colorless, and you can also pay 3 to return Drown Yard Temple from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Yeah, I'm not trying to spend 3 mana to go bring back a land that taps for colorless. That's no thanks. Another one I'm getting rid of is Hostile Desert. It's a land, it's a desert. You can tap it to add a colorless, or you could pay 2, exile a land card from your graveyard. Hostile Desert becomes a 3/4 elemental creature until end of turn. It's still a land. Here's the thing about this card. It's still just a land that taps for colorless, and it can only turn into something if we exile a land, meaning we can't do it more than once if we've already exiled that one land. So eventually it'll never be a 3/4 ever again.
I mean, that is assuming that you don't have an endless supply of lands going to the graveyard.
That would be really bad for us. If it was just all lands going to the grave consistently, we're in trouble.
All right, and then this last card kind of makes me want to cry.
It's the River of Tears, David. That's clever. Yeah, you can tap it to add a blue. Or if you played a land this turn, you can add a black instead. That's it.
See, I understand that this is like mana fixing. I love that this is a card. It is really, really cool. I'm going to need a blue mana. I'm going to play my land for the turn. I'm going to forget about this, and then I'm going to mana screw myself.
It's exactly what happens 100% of the time. I always forget that I'm like, oh, I just played a land. I can tap that for black instead. And yeah, I just rather have a different card in the deck.
I totally understand why you ended up making the cut for this card, though. This is, it's neat. It's just not great.
No, it's not.
So, Hunter, before we start to wrap this up, what are your closing thoughts? And then we gave you a budget of $300. How much of that did you spend?
Yeah, so after all these additions, including all of the additions from the 100, my total amount is $300.36. That's right. I went over by 36 cents. I'm sorry.
Cheating. Disqualified.
Yeah. But my final thoughts on the deck, I like Mirko. I think it's different. I know the Surveil theme isn't as strong as something else like just straight up reanimation. But if you wanted to look at a deck in a different way, then I think Mirko is the deck for you. I really liked all these additions that I did, and I'm very excited to play you guys in our $300 Precon battle. It's going to be a spicy one. But if you wanted to see the entire deck list, I would check the description for the Moxfield account. You can play test it yourself. It's fun.
That's going to do it for the $300 upgrade for Revenant Recon. Thank you so much for sticking around through this video. I know that you liked this video, so make sure that you also like it here on YouTube. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? Make sure that you subscribe to this as well. If you want to stay up to date with all the things that Guys at Magic are doing, follow us on our social media. We are on TikTok, Twitter, and on Instagram at Guys at Magic. If you really want to show some extra love, we've got a Patreon. You can go ahead and find the link for that down in the description below. Until next time, this has been Guys at Magic. Peace.
Peace.